Um, so, what could you recommend to someone like someone here, and I know I talked to you a little bit about our place, Newfoundland and Labrador, uh, who wants to be food secure and sustainable, who's like looking in that direction? Are there resources they can turn to or methods that, might be something to look into?
Do you mean somebody who would want to grow their own food or?
Yeah, somebody who's, yeah, they're interested in maybe growing their own food, just having a sense of food security for themselves. Like, we've got a very cold climate, but we do have better technology now, and things that we can grow here, like root vegetables and cruciferous vegetables that can grow like any time of year. If we even put them in potatoes in a sack of dirt, they'll grow. Um, but if they're looking to do some research maybe in how they can do that, or if you have any resources to recommend or what to look at.
Yeah. Do you mind if I just go back on the point of food security versus
Yeah,
versus
that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because you were saying food secure, and I just wanted to note like the difference in terms. So I mean, I think it's perfectly good to speak about food security at a local level, like you're saying. I just wanted to note that the concept of food sovereignty was
Mm-hmm.
created in reaction to the concept of food security.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So at an international level, it used to be, and it still is, that the UN and people spoke about food security, and the goal was that in areas where there was hunger or food insecurity, that was the goal, that people should have food security. And then what farmers and activists started saying is that food security is not really, it's not enough. It's not what we should be looking to as a goal, because food security can mean that, if you're in Haiti, that you're just getting bags of rice from the US.
Right.
But that is not necessarily something that's culturally appropriate. It's not necessarily something that's going to help build up local economies, that's going to maintain, communities, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so food sovereignty was created in reaction to that, because food security was sort of too limited, and it left too much possibility of just, as long as we have the calories, we're fine, when in fact your food system is so much more than having sufficient calories. It's about maintaining certain cultural ties. It's about maintaining like a community where it is, and having a certain relationship with the local ecology and building up that ecology, and having food that the community wants to have, and not being dumped milk and rice and these things.
Mm-hmm.
um, so but to answer your question, like, I think that obviously situations are going to be very different from one another. If it's a place where people already have some land where they can just decide that they want to now start growing their food and be food secure, like you said, so there are some resources in regards to veganics. We started a website called, the URL is veganic.world, and it's called Veganic World. And so it's a resource center that's still in process. We're adding more information there. It's a resource center on veganics, and the goal of it was both to just put out organic farming as something that exists, because there was really this idea that there's no alternative. Either we have conventional farming or we have animal-based small-scale farming, and we wanted to show that that wasn't true, and we could have small-scale farming that doesn't exploit animals. But also the goal of the resources of the website is to provide resources to people who are already farmers, or who might want to become farmers, because what we've seen is that one of the areas that's really, really, really sorely lacking is in education. So people who start training now to become a farmer, they're not giving any information on veganics. They're only taught to use animal byproducts. And there wasn't so much information exchange amongst farmers either. So that was an important resource so that people can go and connect with others. So we're building that up, but there are a lot of links to YouTube videos, for example, where people talk about how they're growing food, and we're building up a repertoire of interviews with veganic farmers to see what the successes are, sort of counter certain myths, but also what the challenges are, because it's not like there aren't any challenges. Of course there are challenges, but the only way that we can start moving towards a veganic food system is if people have the resources and the connections to address those challenges. So, you know, certain things that farmers are now thinking about, they need to connect with other farmers to ask, how did you address this? They need to have the resources to go to conferences, etc. So basically on that website, we have a list of farms. We also have a map with organic farms in the United States. The map is different from the list because the map is a project by Dr. Mona Seymour. And in her research, she is defining veganic just as the absence of animal byproducts. So
Right.
there are farms on there that do have farm animals. So that's a bit different from our definition. And there are some resources about just growing your own food. Of course, it's going to be different depending on your climate and so on. So I think what would be important there would be to find farmers that are as local to you as possible and connect with those people.
Right.
Organize field trips to their farm if they agree, and really ask them questions and see what they're doing. There needs to be this sort of, you know, there's not a one size fit all sort
Right.
of. So creating those connections and then reading through interviews with other farmers who perhaps live in different climates but have some relevant lessons. But yeah, I think generally there is this idea that, you know, you could do vegan food if you live in Hawaii perhaps, or Costa Rica, but certainly not north of there. You know, but again, like in where I live, people are very attached to the local dairies and so on, but these have been here for, you know, at most 200 years, in many cases much less. And they're not necessarily a part of what's best for here. And it is possible to grow a lot of, you know, a lot of foods like lentils and so on can actually pretty easily be grown in different climates. But then if you don't have land, then you're approaching it from a different perspective, right? And so there, I think that the focus has to be on how do you help people get land? Like how can farmers actually pay for land? And so, you know, it's never, I don't think it's necessarily enough at a broader level to just focus on what we're growing and how. Like there are these other issues that have to be addressed as well, depending on where you are. How can farmers actually have land? You know, how can we perhaps create some subsidies that would allow people to, you know, create a local food system that would benefit both consumers and producers, and
Yeah.